When fear grips a society, even the innocent become prey. One of the most devastating events in human history was the Black Death, a deadly pandemic that swept across Europe, Asia, and North Africa during the 14th century. Arriving in Europe around 1347, the plague spread rapidly through crowded cities and trade routes. Carried by fleas living on rats, the disease infected people with terrifying speed. Victims developed swollen lymph nodes known as buboes, high fever, and dark patches on the skin, giving the plague its infamous name. Within just a few years, historians estimate that nearly 25 to 50 million people died in Europe alone, roughly 1/3 of the continent's population. The scale of death was so overwhelming that entire villages vanished from maps, fields were left abandoned, churches overflowed with bodies, and mass graves became common. Medical knowledge at the time was extremely limited, and people desperately searched for explanations. Some blamed poisoned air, others believed it was divine punishment. Strange and desperate remedies appeared everywhere. People carried fragrant herbs, burned incense, or even whipped themselves in public as part of religious rituals, hoping to drive away the disease. Sadly, none of these methods worked. Fear and superstition often led to violence. Minority groups, especially Jewish communities in parts of Europe, were falsely accused of poisoning wells and spreading the plague. These accusations sparked massacres and expulsions, adding another layer of tragedy to an already catastrophic disaster. Decades later, fear would again take a deadly form during the Salem Witch Trials in colonial Massachusetts in 1692. What began with a few young girls claiming to experience mysterious fits quickly escalated into widespread panic. The small Puritan community believed that witchcraft and the devil were real threats among them. As accusations spread, neighbors began turning against neighbors, friends against friends, and even children against parents. Special courts were created to investigate these accusations. Evidence was often based on dreams, visions, or so-called spectral evidence, meaning someone claimed to see a spirit harming them. Logic and fairness were overshadowed by paranoia. In total, more than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft. 19 were executed by hanging, and one man was crushed to death under heavy stones for refusing to confess. Years later, the community recognized the tragedy and apologized, but the damage had already been done. Another dark chapter unfolded centuries later in the United States with the Tuskegee syphilis study. Beginning in 1932, researchers recruited hundreds of African American men in Alabama under the promise of free medical care. In reality, many of them had syphilis, and the study's purpose was to observe how the disease progressed if left untreated. Even after penicillin became a widely available cure in the 1940s, the participants were deliberately denied treatment. They were misled for decades, suffering severe health complications and unknowingly passing the disease to their families. The study continued until 1972, when it was finally exposed by journalists. Public outrage followed, leading to major reforms in medical ethics and research regulations. Today, the Tuskegee experiment stands as a painful reminder of how science can be misused when human dignity is ignored. Yet, dark history is not limited to these events alone. The Atlantic slave trade forcibly transported more than 12 million Africans Africans across the ocean between the 16th and 19th centuries, packed tightly into ships under horrific conditions. Many did not survive the journey known as the Middle Passage. Those who did were sold into slavery, stripped of their freedom, culture, and basic human rights. The shadows of history may be dark, but understanding them helps ensure that such darkness is never repeated.